The Class 2 is the classic Tic Tac. We have had laser rangefinder returns on them to give us distance. And through that method and the optical zoom, we are able to measure. We think they're about 40 feet in length, and they appear to be traveling supersonic and hypersonic. A very interesting thing, which you'll see in the videos, is when we do see them, they're at the edge of our sensor capabilities. You'll see like there's striations around these stills, and sometimes it almost looks like it bends, almost like it's not a solid mass. So when it's spinning, when it comes out of the spin, for a second, it looks like part of it, like probably a third of it, is bendable and it bends.
And at this point, is it dropping rapidly?
Yes, the only thing that's changing is the angle that we're looking at it with.
The elevation angle, is that right?
Yes, and we're moving in a downward fashion. The system operator is having a very hard time keeping in frame because it's falling so fast.
Dropping fast.
So you can't zoom in, and our servos don't move that fast, so our equipment can't handle that zoom factor with the speed.
Welcome back to The Night Shift, the only show on YouTube powered 100% by sustainably harvested element 115, straight from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. It's true. And because it is such a legal gray area, every Night Shift mug contains just a little bit of element 115. So, put some extra pep in your step. Go to teamnightshift.com and pick yourself up a mug. You won't be sorry. Or maybe you will. I don't know. We don't know what the legal safe exposure limits are for element 115. But again, legal gray area. So teamnightshift.com, get a mug or a shirt or a hat. Or don't. Just hang out. Just make contact. Send me an email. I don't know. Just get comfortable. Mikasa Sukasa. I watched episode 2 of Skywatcher last night. It's really good. It's really good. And I didn't want it to be this good. To be perfectly honest, I thought the hype train was moving a little too fast, and sooner or later something was inevitably going to slow it down. And I was like, for sure, it's going to be one of these YouTube people that makes a huge promise that just completely falls flat. We had Jake Barber's interview with Ross on News Nation last week. And I thought, this sounds too good to be true. For sure, this is not going to be as impressive as he is building it up to be. But it really was. And if you haven't seen it yet, we're going to watch it together. And it's awesome. It's awesome. So let's get into it.
In part 1 of Skywatcher, you heard a lot of very believable people making truly unbelievable claims. Skywatcher's objective is to use the scientific method to validate or invalidate these claims and hopefully usher in a new understanding of reality. For Skywatcher Part II, our focus is on data. In this episode, you will meet James Fowler. James runs the technology team here at Skywatcher, and over the past few years, he has put together what I consider to be, by far, the highest quality private repository of UAP data in the world. For the first time, James has agreed to be interviewed on camera, and we will be releasing the data that he's collected over the past many years. So we're out here in the desert, running our second Skywatcher event of the year. As you've heard about, we're focused on 2 different types of UAP calling. We have machine calling and we have psionic calling. We've had success with both of these different types. But over the past few days, on the machine calling side, we've witnessed a lot of spectacular things. Every time we have an event, we have things happen that I truly cannot explain. We and the rest of our team are doing our very best to collect a robust set of data to share with all of you. But I hope you can understand that it's not as easy as it sounds. We're talking about objects that seemingly are able to appear and disappear in real time. We're talking about objects that seem to evade our sensors. They seem to actually turn our sensors off at times. And I can say firsthand that crazy shit keeps happening. I consider myself to be a very logical, rational person. This rabbit hole, the rabbit hole of UAPs and consciousness, has been hands down the craziest experience of my life.
The first thing that leaps out at me here is how efficiently this is put together. They cut right to the chase and show you what you're going to see later in the episode up front. There's a lot of great visuals here. It's very compelling. It's captivating. And Alex Klokus sets the stage in a really clean, straightforward way. We're working with a clean slate, a trained team of experts in their respective fields with robust data collection, equipment, tools, methods, and they're going to gather this data and put together a profile on these various different UAPs. So straight out of the gate, I really like that. I like the way that it's put together. I like the as it goes on, you'll see the editing is very tight. The sound design, the music is awesome. Like whoever their media team is that put this together, whoever's in charge of that is phenomenal. Now let's talk about Alex Klokus. Alex Klokus is the guy who is talking in the beginning, and he's setting up the whole episode. He is one of the founding partners, the financier, I guess, behind the Skywatcher program, or at least he's the one that we see. So here's his Wikipedia page. It says, Alex Klokus is an American entrepreneur, co-founder of the technology news website Futurism, a co-founder of Gravity Blanket, believe it or not, and an executive producer, which usually means money guy. It can mean all kinds of different things, but usually it means money guy. In 2017, Klokus was inducted into the Forbes 30 Under 30, wow, in its media category alongside his Futurism co-founder, Jordan Lejuan? I don't know. That sounds like some kind of a Jedi name. Klokus is currently a founder and managing partner of the SALT Fund. Klokus is a moderator at the SALT I Connections Conference and World Government Summit. Interesting. World Government Summit. That's where we saw Carl Nell make his now famous statement, there is zero doubt, right? That Q&A with Carl Nell. And he says, I have zero doubt, or there is zero doubt that non-human intelligence is here and interacting with humanity. That was at the SALT I Connections Conference and World Government Summit. Let's click World Government Summit real quick. The World Governments Summit is an annual event since 2013 held in Dubai. It brings together leaders in government for a global dialogue with a focus on issues of futurism, technology, and innovation. The summit acts as a knowledge exchange hub between government officials, thought leaders, policymakers, and private sector leaders to discuss future trends, issues, and opportunities facing humanity. The summit, that's nice. The summit has typically hosted approximately 90 speakers from 150 participating countries, along with some 4,000 attendees. The World Government Summit was formed in 2013 by a team of experts from different disciplines to bring government, business, and civil society together with the goal of improving the future for the 7 billion people on the planet. The chairman of the World Government Summit is Mohammed Al-Gergawi, with Ohud bint Khalfan al-Rumi and Omar al-Olama serving as vice chairs of the organization. When I think about improving the lives of 7 billion people, most of whom are dirt poor, Dubai leaps to mind as the place to put those plans together. So that's the World Government Summit. Alex Klokus is a moderator at SALT I Connections and World Government Summit. So the SALT conference is actually the Skybridge Alternatives Conference, if I'm reading this right. This is the Wikipedia for Skybridge Alternatives Conference. The Skybridge Alternatives Conference, often stylized SALT or Salt Eye Connections, this is what Alex Klokus is a moderator of, is an annual hedge fund conference sponsored by Skybridge Capital that started in 2009. The world's largest hedge fund conference. It is considered by the New York Times to be one of Wall Street's most prominent gatherings and by Reuters to be a flagship conference for Wall Street, traditionally held in Las Vegas. That's appropriate. The conference moved to New York City in 2021. The conference is known for hosting talks by high-profile market experts, politicians, and show business personalities. Founded in 2009 by Anthony Scaramucci, SALT has evolved into a 3-day conference that initially caused his rise to fame. Who's Anthony Scaramucci? The Mooch. The Mooch is the former White House Director of Communications from July 21 to July 31, 10 days. He worked for Donald Trump. It's got everything. It's got a billionaire in a suit. It's got a 50 cal. They've got a dune buggy. They've got helicopters. It's awesome. Tailor-made for somebody who grew up in the 80s. My question is that intentional? Could it be? Go with me on this. If what Richard Dolan suggests is true, and there are factions at war here, there is a pro-disclosure faction and a legacy program faction, and those two groups are in conflict with one another. The pro-disclosure faction wants to get information out. Why would you want to get information out? Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. It's the right thing to do. People deserve to know the truth. Some secrets are too big to keep secret forever. Or you stand to make a lot of money, a shitload of money, on extremely valuable, high-tech materials, advanced technology that could be rolled out commercially, that would be very useful at a time like this in our history, where we're moving out into the local solar system to colonize the moon and Mars and mine the asteroid belt and do all these other things. If you wanted to get some of this stuff out, but you don't want to have full disclosure, you could have a managed disclosure. You could have a type of disclosure that sort of discloses some stuff, but keeps all of the toys locked up where they are, nice and safe, so that nobody learns about any laws that might have been broken or bent along the way. No one has to know about all your top secret technology that you reverse engineered from these craft. You can control the flow of information. Now, how would you do that? Well, one way you would do it is you would put together a tight group, a really awesome team of experts that know exactly what they're doing because they've already done it. These are the retrieval people. You would just go get them. You would assemble this team. You would give them some money, a budget, and you would turn them loose, and you would do something like this. You would say, we're starting with a clean slate. We're just collecting data. And then you would document that process as you go, updating the public in real time. While you're getting video, you're getting sensor data, you're getting all of this information. And then the public is following along with you, and they're getting brought up to speed to a point, but they're not getting the full backstory. Now, we know there's a huge backstory here because there's 75 years of cover-up that precede Skywatcher, and these guys obviously know that. So when they start the conversation, they're starting from a place of, we're starting from zero, and we're going to build on that. Well, that's perfect. That's perfect for bringing the public up to speed. There was a weird moment a few years ago where Sam Harris, of all people, Sam Harris, was right when all of the UFO news was starting to really break and get and heat up after 2017. But this was like I want to say 3 years ago. Sam Harris said he had been contacted by some people involved with the program or a program that wanted to pursue disclosure, and they wanted to recruit people to help with messaging, and they were looking at podcasters, and someone had reached out to him.
I think we were contacted by the same person. It wasn't clear to me who this person was or how this person got my cell phone number. They didn't seem. It didn't seem like we were getting punked. I mean, the person seemed credible to me.
And they were talking to you about the release of different videos on your phone.
Yeah, and this is when there was a flurry of activity around this. So there was a big New Yorker article on UFOs, and there was rumors of congressional hearings, I think, coming, and there were the videos that were being debunked or not. And so this person contacted both of us, I think, around the same time. And I think he might have contacted Rogan or other. Eric is just the only person I've spoken to about it, I think, who I know was contacted. And what happened is the person kept, writing a check that he didn't cash. Like he kept saying, okay, next week I'm going to, I understand this is sounding spooky and, you have no reason to really trust me, but next week I'm going to put you on a Zoom call with people who you will recognize. And they're going to be, former heads of the CIA and, people who just, you're going to, within 5 seconds of being on the Zoom call, you'll know this is not a hoax. And I said, great, just let me know, just send me the Zoom link. Right. And that happened maybe 3 times, there was just one phone conversation, and then it was just texts, just a bunch of texts. And I think Eric spent more time with this person, and I haven't spoken to him about it. I know he spoke about it publicly, but so I it's not that my bullshit detector ever really went off in a big way. It's just the thing never happened, and I lost interest.
Sam Harris is a great choice, I think. He's extremely well respected. He's brilliant. He's a great communicator. He can communicate complex subjects in a really easy to understand way, which is great for somebody like me. He's one of the people you'd want to do this. And then that conversation seemed to go cold. So that was interesting. And now Skywatcher has this YouTube channel. They're putting stuff out on Twitter, and obviously the YouTube content creators like me and Pavel and Patrick over at Vetted, we're all kind of gobbling all this stuff up and then putting it back out there. So there's a machine at work here, a media machine. And as I look at it from the outside, looking in, trying to stay objective about this whole thing, it just seems like a really efficient way to get this information out while not revealing the goods, if you wanted to do that, if that was your goal. It could also be, and I'm just speculating here, I don't know that this is true, but it could also just be that this group got together organically and that everything they're saying is taken at face value is the truth. And Jake Barber had a breakthrough in his own personal experience that made him change his perspective on what he wanted to do. And he is now pursuing disclosure as his life's purpose. That could also be true. I don't know that these guys are coordinating all of this. It's hard for me, knowing what I know about how these psychological operations can unfold over periods of years. I don't know. It just seems weird. Everybody connected to this is tied to an intelligence agency or is a former retrieval team person. Like, they're all tied into it. So, I guess you could ask, what are their true motivations? And, does it matter if we're getting closer to the truth? And I don't know that it does. I feel like at the end of the day, I'm here for the ride. I want to see where this goes next. And they're doing a great job of communicating it. So let's go on to the next clip, and then we'll come back and talk some more.
So today we had a class 7 come in about 3,000 feet, 135 degree heading. It was pretty low to the ground. We saw it visually. their eyes. We had it on radar as well.
We've been collecting UAP data for more than 5 years with electromechanical signaling, which we call our dog whistle. Generally speaking, we see 3 to 5 different classes of UAP per day during operations. After we turn on the dog whistle, UAPs literally come to us day after day. To make sense of our data, we had to define a lexicon and we based it on flight characteristics. We've broken the UAPs down into 9 classes or types. Some of these classes may be the same UAP under different flight configurations, but at this point, given their behavior, we're confident they don't align with conventional or terrestrial explanations. Each UAP class has different characteristics. Some shimmer, some tumble, some spin. Some look like they're alive and they just fly like a living object in the sky. UAPs are extremely hard to image. What is seen with the naked eye is generally not what is seen under camera. The class 1 often spins, tumbles through the sky. Craft looks like a black body. It appears to flash, pulse multiple times per second. There appears to be some kind of cloud or vapor around it. We've seen class 1s in formations up to 22, 23, flying in different flight formations, different flock formations. The class 2 is the classic Tic Tac. We've seen it in groups of 2 to 3, often flying very erratically. We've seen these a couple years in a row, and usually we see them in groups. The class 3, the blob, a pulsing, vibrating cloud. There's something, maybe perhaps a cylinder kind of in the middle that has a different light like a flame, and then it vibrates and pulses as it moves through space. The class 4 is your orb. We've only seen it in infrared. The class 4 seems to only come during certain activities in conjunction with perhaps the class 1. We don't have enough data yet to confirm. The class 5 we call the Manta Ray. It seems to tumble and rotate as it moves through the sky. Class 6 is Bright Star. That one vibrates very, very fast. It literally looks like a crystal in the sky. The class 7 is the Jellyfish. It's probably about 2 meters across. The head is purple and black in color, and then it has tentacles. The class 8 we call the Hornet. It looks very similar to the class 7, the Jellyfish, except for it's bigger, and it's almost like a jellyfish carrying something. And then the class 9 is the Egg. The class 9 isn't something we have a lot of data on. It's very limited. We have it as Skywatcher during our California event. It's an emerging class, and we have strong evidence that it probably exists, but we don't have data to concisely describe it.
All right, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of this thing, and I think this is where it starts to get interesting, but not for the reason you might suspect. This is the chart that they just showed. This is the 9 classifications of various UAP that they are reportedly seeing very regularly, some of these almost daily, every time they go out. Certainly, according to what Alex Klokus says, every time they use their electromechanical dog whistle, I think they call it, their signaling method, they are getting hits 100% of the time. What jumps out to me about this is that there are many recorded historical sightings that do not conform with this classification system. Craft that are different in shape. I'm thinking obviously of disc-shaped craft. We don't see anything here that resembles a disc-shaped craft. They go into each one of these, it should be pointed out. In each one of these classifications is going to be explored in more depth as you go forward in the episode. We probably won't go through all of them today, but you can go watch the complete episode. I'll link to it in the show notes, and you can see their breakdown of each and every one. It's very interesting. But no mention of discs. It should be noted, Stephen Greer, Dr. Greer, point blank says that the Tic Tac UAP is a alien reproduction vehicle manufactured using reverse engineered non-human technology through, I believe it's Lockheed Skunk Works.
I've spoken to Mr. Fravor, and he certainly is accurate in what he described. There are sensors and videotape of the object, but that white Tic Tac object was actually first recorded in 1967 over Pennsylvania. And we have a new top secret witness that saw it being offloaded off of a C-130 transport vehicle during the first Gulf War in an area near the Azores. And that is a man-made one. That is most likely out of the Lockheed Skunk Works. So unfortunately, a lot of these objects that people are encountering which are very dangerous in how they move, are actually human in their construction. Now, that is a much, much bigger secret than the fact that there are extraterrestrial vehicles out there. Because if that were to be acknowledged, the very first thing anyone with any sense is going to ask is, how are we building these? When that gets answered, it'll get answered. And when it gets answered, it's the end of oil, gas, coal, nuclear power, public utilities, and surface roads. Why? Because the technology, this is why we put out this film, The Lost Century, and how to reclaim it. There's a century of technologies that have been sequestered, and the damage that we're seeing to the biosphere and the world poverty that has accelerated over the last 100 years is in large part because these sort of amazing sciences and technologies have been kept secret, and ruthlessly so. I mean, I personally know people who have been murdered trying to bring some of these technologies out that would take us off oil.
So point blank, straight out of the gate, Stephen Greer says Tic Tacs are ours. That's a blue bucket technology. So if these guys are out there seeing Tic Tacs, then according to Stephen Greer's interpretation of what's going on, they're seeing something being flown out of skunk works. There's an interesting question about where all this takes place. And Ross Coulthart, in the interview with Jake Barber that dropped last week, kind of let it slip that it's in Utah. It looks like it could be Utah. But there was a little brief moment in that interview where he let it slip, and you could tell it was very subtle, but everyone knew that he fucked up, including him, and you could see it all on their faces, and they rolled right through it like a bunch of professionals, and they didn't acknowledge it. But I think he let it slip, and he wasn't supposed to.
I know from people who've been to the Skinwalker Ranch, which is another site in Utah where there is alleged anomalous phenomena. The people who have been in combat or in near-death situations, they often have quite horrific experiences that the phenomenon seems to reflect back at them something about their own life experience. Is that something you're seeing on the range?
So interesting here. We don't see any discs. We don't see anything. The Hornet class, what is this? 8 Hornet looks like a Starfleet shuttle craft. The Manta Ray looks like a TR-3B, sort of. You know, we know that there are all kinds of vehicles that are different configurations than what we're seeing here, and they're telling us this is our taxonomy at Skywatcher. This is what we're seeing. So it's like we're getting educated and brought up to speed, but on stuff that's very different than the last 75 years of sightings than that we've been talking about. So it's interesting to see where this goes from here. Let's go on to the next clip.
We have our sensor team up on the hill, actively collecting data. We have our psionic team actively operating both day and night. And we have 2 helicopters on standby, ready to be deployed.
Yeah, so the nice thing about having helicopters available out here as opposed to drones or airplanes is essentially helicopters can hover for hours at a time, and we can put people on board. You know, our drones are limited in altitude and also in just time on station because of their battery life. We like using the helicopters. We can put multiple people in the helicopter with a number of observation equipment, cameras, etc. So it's a really useful platform for us.
Oh, the sun is to the east right now. We got that little bit of shading right there on the lower left of the target.
Yep.
Which, if that's actual shading, that means the sun's coming from this angle.
Mm-hmm.
So the usual question I get is, where's the evidence? Where's the data? In science, just having data doesn't mean anything. So the reason there is a scientific process is because it works and it's replicable. And it's a standard upon which all science is accomplished. So by doing and using those kinds of approaches here at Skywatcher, we're going to be able to collect the data, get it peer reviewed, not because the peer review tells you that the conclusion is right, but because that allows others to look at what it is that you did and determine whether or not you did it right. So that hasn't been done anywhere yet. It's been done in bits and pieces here or there, but this is now a comprehensive framework for accomplishing the goal.
Check out Garry Nolan in his Carl Sagan sport coat, looking dapper, sharp, comfortable too, out there in the desert of Utah, I think. Probably Utah. Did they even say in the show? I don't know if they said it was in Utah. We'll get into that in a minute. But great to see Garry Nolan involved here, lending some much needed credibility to the subject matter of non-human intelligence and UAP research, and basically making it safe for other scientists to get involved. And through lending his credibility to this project and his somebody with his resume, it should be pretty easy to imagine a lot of other very qualified researchers to come in and do some third-party verification of this data. That's what it's all about. At the end of the day, everybody has to see the same data and everybody has to weigh in on it and at least come to some kind of a consensus before we can really accept what we're looking at one way or the other. So in that sense, you know, as I said before, I'm kind of operating on the assumption, I'm assuming, and I could be totally wrong here, but I'm operating on the assumption that behind all of this, behind the Skywatcher thing, there is a group pulling the strings, and they're doing it in a way that puts this forward in a very step-by-step manner, and it definitely looks that way to me. Now, again, this could all be organic, and maybe all of these people just came together because they all are interested in getting the truth out there. That's possible too, but I'm just throwing it out there. But no matter how this rolls out, it's as long as the data is public and everyone can weigh in on it, and we get a scientific consensus about what it is that we're dealing with, at the end of the day, that moves us closer to the truth. I'm here for it, and let's see where they go next.
My name is Marek von Rittenkamp, and I have been covering the UFO or UAP topic for The Hill on the opinion side for about 4 years now. I am excited to have a discussion today with James Fowler, who leads the technology side of Skywatcher and has collected some very, very interesting data that we are going to be taking a closer look at today. James, thank you so much for joining me.
Happy to be here. So we stumbled into this pretty much face planted right into this topic. We didn't want this topic to come into our lives. I'm not a ufologist. I don't believe. I'm not Fox Mulder. I have no faith in UFO, UAP stuff. I have no belief in off-planet anything. Frankly, we follow the data, and the data we have indicates that there's probably 3 buckets. There's probably a blue bucket, American-made. There's probably a red bucket, made in China. And there's probably another bucket, which I don't know where that bucket comes from. This isn't a spiritual activity for us. This isn't emotional. This is strictly facts and data driven. And we've tried very hard to keep it that way.
So how did you end up out here in undisclosed location in the desert, looking up at the sky and looking for UAP?
Well, after my career, I started several companies and started running different projects for the government as a subcontractor. And through those activities, we started noting anomalies. And one thing led to another. Now we have what we believe is compelling data on UAPs.
Is there anything else that, at a high level, that really stood out to you that you have observed, you and your team have observed out in the field?
Yeah, sure. So the Class 3 is very spectacular. We've seen the Class 3 as soon as yesterday. We didn't see any today, just Class 7s. But the Class 3 looks like a blob. Looks like a Pepto-Bismol-colored blob in the sky. I don't even know how else to say it. It pulses and vibrates, and I don't know what that means. I don't know why we're seeing that, but it's definitely in the sky, and we believe we're able to dog whistle the UAPs to our location. And when we do, we get different observations, and the Class 3 is quite spectacular.
So, James, could you explain just a little, go into maybe a little bit more depth on this dog whistle, this apparent capability or technological element that potentially appears to attract UAP?
We have turned on our equipment that we've customized and created what we believe is a dog whistle, and UAPs show up. So through that process, we started a systematic cause and effect, if you will, experimentation. And we've arrived at some very custom capabilities that when we deploy these capabilities, we get different UAP responses. Every time we turn on this equipment and do the things we need to do for the right amount of time, we get a response every time. And we've also experimented with not using the equipment and seeing if we see things, and we have not, which is interesting because all of our data has been daytime. We have no data from night. None of our data are lights in the sky that you have to squint your eyes and put your finger on your nose and hope you see what you want to see. No, our data is broad daylight, often well lit like this, maybe in a desert, data that's very, very viewable. We've had over 300 sorties now of UAP incursions into our airspace where we're working.
Can I quickly interrupt a sortie just for the benefit of the audience? That's an individual flight over that you tracked with your sensors. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so I call a sortie when we have an observation of a class of UAP moving through our airspace. That class might be in a flock. We've seen flocks of up to 20 plus. And we also have singletons that move through. Like today we had 2 class 7s move through. So each one by itself would be a sortie. So we've seen hundreds of UAPs. Perhaps we're running an event and we have 200 sorties in a day. We don't know if that's one aircraft seeing 190 times more, or if that's 200 separate airframes or aircraft or UAPs or whatever they are moving through our airspace separately. So we just call it a sortie and accept what we don't know, and accept that, hey, as an observation from a technology perspective and science perspective, this is one set of data.
So I'd like to maybe turn now to and acknowledge the skeptics out there. It's good to be skeptical. You want to be skeptical. And we learned quite a bit from the New Jersey incidents that a lot of what people were seeing were just normal planes in the sky, right? If you turn on the news, almost all the footage was commercial airliners. We know that, right? Anybody who's seen a commercial or knows what they're looking at can say that. When you're doing your analyses or you're tracking an object live, are you accounting for wind? Are you accounting for, let's start with wind.
So yes, we do look at the wind. We don't look that hard at it. A lot of these objects are moving faster than the wind. A lot of them will do maneuvers such as the Tic Tacs. We see them come straight down as if from space, tumbling and spinning, at Mach 2+. It's important to note that all of the classes, every single one of them, we have characteristics that are unexplainable with current human technology and our current understanding of nature. So it just so happens that to track hypersonics, to track stealth, to track drones in non-ideal conditions or aircraft in non-ideal conditions is the same technology you need to track UAPs. By building the system net new and calling it Skywatcher, that's what we've done. We've architected, designed, and are building and soon integrating this next generation technology. So we're actively working with and seeking more third-party, non-ufologists, physicists, scientists, academia. We want them to come and analyze our data and produce third-party independent analysis.
And to be clear, James, these individuals would be privy to the sensitive data that you're discussing.
They would get full access to our data. It would just be in a controlled environment where they don't take all the data with them. They just produce the report and anything redacted for release.
That is an insightful and I think a very important element to highlight here. And I'd like to turn this into a public service announcement that anybody watching who may be an expert, an academic, who has an interest in this topic now after watching this, to reach out to Skywatcher and to, if you have the bandwidth and ability, to lend your services. I know the team would very much appreciate that and respect that. And I think an objective third-party analysis would really move the discussion forward.
Okay, James Fowler, head of technology for Skywatcher, laying out their methodology for classifying these UAPs, the 9 different classifications that they have on performance characteristics. I think it's interesting that he points out how similar some of these look from a distance. It's interesting how far away the footage that they have is. They talk about this later in the show. They say that the objects are moving faster than their equipment can actually track optically. So they've got these extreme lenses on servos and just really high-end camera systems trying to lock onto these objects, but they're moving in some cases faster than the speed of sound. So they're having a hard time following them. But despite this, they actually get some really remarkable video. And it's a great point that he makes. All of their data will be available to anyone who wants to review it in some classified setting that they have set up, or some kind of a secure setting. So I guess like a private SCIF, if you will. That's interesting because it suggests that some of the information, well, it doesn't suggest it. I guess they're just saying some of the information can't be public. Related, I'm assuming, to the electromechanical dog whistle, which I suspect is nuclear. It's a guess, but I'm basing that on the fact that they're not really saying how it works, what it is, what other information would they need to protect. I think it all boils down to where this stuff is taking place, who these people actually are, and what their backgrounds all tie into. I don't know, but we do know that Lou Elizondo has said, and others, Danny Sheehan has said, that UAPs are attracted to nuclear material, nuclear weapons, nuclear aircraft carriers, submarines, anything that has any kind of nuclear signature is attractive to UAPs in some way. So it would make sense to me that their dog whistle is nuclear. The question is, like, what does that actually mean? And I don't know. I have no idea. So I could be completely wrong, but just a guess there. Let's go on to the next clip.
Every day, we've identified some form of jellyfish UAP that seems to be attracted to our machine calling system. Every day, the jellyfish has gotten pretty close to the radar, and yesterday, it was so close that the team there could actually see it with their naked eye.
It looked like a cylinder, but when we got under some power with magnification, it looked more like a class 7 or jellyfish. Tip of it being super, super bright and reflective, and whatever was hanging off the bottom of it was, not really easy to see, but you can see that there was something floating beneath it.
135 heading, class 7, northeast.
It's a game of chess, right? They're actually probing us to validate our capabilities. If this is an advanced species and is smart enough to do what it's doing, they have the upper hand, and we are the little ants under the magnifying glass. We had a Class 7 UAP. We went ahead and launched the helo to pursue it. Before the helo got here, it actually came and hovered right over us. For the first time, we saw a Class 7 with the naked eye. It was very glinty, looked metallic. Through our optics, we've always thought it was purple or black. Frankly, the reflections look like chrome almost color.
Looking to the east, Check heading around 68 degrees.
It's probably 4,000 feet above us, about maybe 1 kilometer out, horizontal distance above the ground. And it looked like 8 meters total in distance from top to bottom. The top will look like a mushroom, like a big jellyfish. It's very, very, very bright white and vibrating and flashing, like pulsing. There was like 3 flashing panels, like equal distance going down it. I've seen some the last couple of days through a sensor, so I'd seen them before, so it wasn't like awe-shocking, but it was, kind of taken back to be like, oh wow, really am seeing one, with my actual visual eyes, right here, right above me at 4,000 feet. It looked like a jumper under canopy at 4,000 feet, which is the same distance when they pull. So that part is crazy. Then I knew, like, I'm not seeing stuff, there it is. It's the same thing that I've been seeing on sensor. And all the characteristics, were consistent with what a Class 7 should look like.
The Class 7 is a jellyfish. It's not the jellyfish you've seen on TV, it's a different jellyfish. We think the head of the jellyfish is about 2 meters in size. We think the tentacles hanging down are about 3 to 5 meters in size, varying and depending on which one you're looking at. You can see these stills are taken from different jellyfish. You can see this jellyfish, the tentacles look very, very long. On this one, they look shorter compared to the head. As you can see, the nodules on the tentacles light up. And again, this light appears to us to go from head to tail and pulse and light up the nodules as it goes. Also, sometimes it looks like an automaton or something with like an alien movie where it's got like the tail kind of hanging out, like it's seeking something. And sometimes it looks like it's a jellyfish in the sky. It seems to undulate as it moves. We have seen these take direct flight paths. Even yesterday, for the first time, we had 2 in formation. We've never seen that before. We chased down one of those 2, and it deviated its flight path as we approximated, and then it elevated directly straight up, as in directly vertical. So the Class 7 is very hard to image, and at distance, it looks very similar to the Class 6, and also the Class 8 at distance. So what you're gonna see is it's kind of, I'll call it swimming in through the sky. There aren't a lot of exotic colors. There is reflectivity, but that color you see right there is very akin to the Class 6 when it's not emitting high energy or whatever it's doing. So when it's not vibrating. So we don't know what that means. And you can kind of start to see now the tentacles hanging down as it moves. In IR, they're very obvious. They're less obvious in EO. So we have multiple indications that this is a real object, that is not man-made, and that it is flying through our airspace and does want to avoid us.
At the end of day 2, our psionic team made a bold prediction. That the next day, we would see an interaction between 2 different types of UAPs in the sky.
The Class 7s, we believe, are aggressive. They appear to want to encroach on us and get over us. The Class 5 we saw yesterday seemed to put itself between us and the Class 7, and the Class 7 then egressed to the north and the east. Let's do like an 11:10 startup. How long can you idle on the ground?
Yeah.
Like 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Done.
On day 3, around noon, our radar started to detect a Class 2 Tic Tac.
We had our SIs who had just finished doing their thing, and one of them had brought up the fact that something was going to come from a very specific direction. He had a really good feeling about a specific location.
There have been multiple instances of the psionic team predicting when the machine calling and the radar team will actually sense an object.
The Class 2 is the classic Tic Tac. We have had laser rangefinder returns on them to give us distance. And through that method and the optical zoom, we are able to measure. We think they're about 40 feet in length, and they appear to be traveling supersonic and hypersonic. A very interesting thing, which you'll see in the videos, is when we do see them, they're at the edge of our sensor capabilities. You'll see like there's striations around these stills, and sometimes it almost looks like it bends, almost like it's not a solid mass. So when it's spinning, when it comes out of the spin, for a second, it looks like part of it, like probably about a third of it is bendable and it bends.
And at this point, is it dropping rapidly?
Yes, the only thing that's changing is the angle that we're looking at it with.
The elevation angle, is that right?
Yes, and we're moving in a downward fashion. The system operator is having a very hard time keeping in frame because it's falling so fast.
Dropping fast.
So you can't zoom in, and our servos don't move that fast, so our equipment can't handle that zoom factor with the speed. You'll see multiple UAPs in these, as in they're flying together. I don't know that they're in a formation. You know, if you go frame by frame, you can see their cylinders.
Wow.
So that's the Class 2.
Fascinating.
Visual 340 from the radar, approximately 5 kilometers out, 800 feet elevation.
We sent the helo out to intercept the Tic Tac, but the first attempt failed because our radar was being jammed by the Class 7 Jellyfish.
Where were we in the sky the first time you saw that? That was when we were 7 kilometers or so out to the northwest, 340 at that spot that we went to.
And we kept trying to climb, and it wouldn't let us.
Our helicopter launched, and about a half mile out, the helicopter stopped moving. Engines running, blades are turning, but it would not go forward, it would not go up, it would not go left or right, it was stuck there.
So we're kind of, imagine like a blanket above us, and it's like, there's like pressing us down.
So maybe we were in proximity to it. It was saying don't come any higher.
Yeah, that's
because that was when I told you guys elevate, right?
Controls resisting.
That's fascinating.
We were called out to intercept an object that was found on radar. We went to the location it was supposed to be at. We circled a couple times and were requested to climb another 1,000 feet. The instrumentation started to bounce and the collective basically was frozen. I've never experienced anything like that before. I've got over 4,000 hours of flight time and this has never happened before.
So we don't know how they're jamming us. We don't know how they're turning our equipment off yet. Best guess would be a microwave signal. We're not seeing it on the frequencies we're using for our collection equipment.
Yeah, this is north, but it's not giving a reading at all. It's off.
Either it's moving supersonic out of here with noiselessly, or it's flipping a switch and now you see me, now you don't. And I kind of feel like it's the second one. So it's really looking interesting that we're seeing multiple classes, 3 classes today, 2, 5, and 7. Saw them all with binoculars and or the naked eye, which is really new for us. We've not had that experience in the last 5 years. And the fact that the class 2 and class 5 seem to be putting themselves between us and the jellyfish. We don't know what that means. We don't have enough data yet to say that conclusively. And I'm not quite sure how many times we have to see something like that till we understand that that's probably the case. Also interesting that the class 5 and class 2 took 3 or 4 days to show up. The class 5 we call the Manta Ray. It looks to be like is written, a Manta Ray. It has round everywhere. I don't think there's anything straight or nearly straight. We actually went frame by frame on this because it was tumbling slowly and derived a 3D model of what we think it looks like. Here you can see it tumbling and spinning on multiple axes as it comes through the frame.
And you said this is going perpendicular to the wind and faster than the wind.
Yes, it was on radar, it was on imagery, multiple bands. And the interesting thing is the radar shows this vibrating as well, the same heartbeat signal, which is really a boost in our analysis because only UAPs appear to have the vertical and horizontal heartbeat. Manned aircraft, balloons, birds, drones, they don't. They have a flatline trajectory and also a flatline radar signature. So that's the class 5.
Excellent.
After every event, it seems as though we leave with more questions than we do answers. Our mission in our investigation is truly just getting started. We're quickly learning, in fact, how many things that we still don't know.
Skywatcher will release full modules for each of the 9 UAP classes on YouTube and our website in the coming weeks. Please understand that this is a live operation unfolding in real time. We are doing our best to create a taxonomy of these objects based on the data we've collected, but we need your help.
Part 3 of Skywatcher is going to be about psionics. It's going to be about the team that we've assembled. You're going to hear from some of them directly. You'll hear about their experience, their background, and how they found themselves here alongside us today. And if we can validate the existence of these abilities completely and scientifically, then that information necessitates an entirely new concept of reality and our place in it as human beings.
Okay, jellyfish and Tic Tac. Jellyfish is super interesting because we've seen jellyfish type UAPs before. Of course, there's the famous jellyfish video that was leaked where this jellyfish looking thing, it looks like an Imperial probe droid, if I'm honest, floating through an American military base, which is apparently some classified location that is super sensitive. And this thing is just sailing right over the base. There's people walking underneath it. There's dogs. No one's reacting to it. It's practically, I guess, for all intents and purposes, invisible to the people on the ground. So there's that jellyfish. According to the Skywatcher team, the jellyfish that they are seeing are different than that. That is not the same thing here, which is interesting because they do look very similar. So I wonder where that would fall within their classification system. Presumably, they wouldn't comment, I guess, much on that because they're not collecting data on that. That's a sighting that was, or a video that was leaked. And we all saw it, but they're looking at strictly what they can gather data on, which is what they should be doing. So that's good. But it's interesting that there's multiple types of what we might consider jellyfish UAPs. And people in the past have talked about, there was a guy on Jesse Michaels' show who was, it was the episode where Jesse Michaels interviewed Lou Elizondo. And the room that they interviewed Elizondo in was part of a Masonic lodge in DC. And the guy who was the caretaker for this lodge was this old dude. And he said that when he was a kid, there was a sighting in DC, and he saw what he described as a giant jellyfish. And I wish I could find this clip. It's out there. If you go watch the Jesse Michaels, Lou Elizondo interview, there's a scene where there's a clip where they're interviewing this guy. And he says, yeah, I was a little kid. I walked out of the back of my house. I looked up and I saw this thing. It looked like a gigantic jellyfish. And it was just glowing and there was light up underneath it. It was really weird. And what he described sounds similar to what the Skywatcher guys are talking about here. So the jellyfish thing is super interesting to me, but what do they say? It's about 6 to 8 meters long, or 8 to 10, something like that. Pretty big. I think it was like 4 or 5 people, 6 foot tall, stacked on top of each other in terms of size. That's interesting. Now, the Tic Tac thing, Stephen Greer point blank says that Tic Tacs are human-made alien reproduction vehicles manufactured at Lockheed Skunk Works from reverse-engineered non-human technology. But they are, according to Dr. Greer, 100% blue bucket, homegrown UAPs made here by our own guys. Either Stephen Greer is wrong, and Tic Tacs are actually non-human vehicles that are responding to this electromechanical dog whistle from Skywatcher, or Stephen Greer is right, and they are made by Lockheed, and for some reason, Lockheed technology is showing up at a Skywatcher data gathering experiment in the field. I think that's unlikely. So unless I'm misreading this, it seems like Stephen Greer's claim that these are human-made technology, the Tic Tac, is incorrect. I don't know. But it's also confusing. Who actually does know? I have no idea. The way that Skywatcher depicts the Tic Tac and the way they show it in their video, it's kind of tumbling and falling, and it looks like it's stretching and moving in ways that don't seem to make sense. It looks non-human, but what do I know? I'm a guy on YouTube. I don't know. Stephen Greer is super confident that he's right on this. So there's an interesting conflict there between him and what the Skywatcher team is observing and seems to be saying. I think that's worthy of note. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Do you think this is part of a coordinated effort to roll out some form of disclosure without revealing the goods that are locked up in all these black budget, ultra top secret classified programs? Or is Skywatcher legitimately a group of truth-seeking individuals, formerly all of these guys formerly of different intelligence agency backgrounds and military backgrounds, that just sort of found each other and came together to form the ultimate A-team for truth, justice, and the American way? I don't know. I'm just as confused as everybody else. I approach this with a hefty amount of suspicion. I'm pretty jaded, if you can't tell. But the question is, does it even matter? Does it even matter? At the end of the day, if we're getting closer to what is really going on and we're learning something, does it matter? I just think, and I'm going to leave it here, it's interesting that 2 years ago, we were talking about the Schumer Amendment. That was the discussion of the moment. That was the hot topic. And the Schumer Amendment spelled out in detail how classified programs were going to be looked into. This technology would be put under eminent domain, and the federal government would have the authority to go in and seize it and actually take it and provide it to the disclosure panel, which was a group of individuals chosen from different backgrounds with expertise in a variety of different areas, and that independent panel would review this technology or would review these programs and decide what stays classified and what doesn't. It's very detailed. It's very spelled out. I've got a copy of it over here. You can go look it up. The original Schumer Amendment, which did not pass in its complete form. So we were having that conversation a couple of years ago, and now it's like we're having a different conversation. It's not a bad conversation, but it's starting from scratch, and we're getting this step-by-step build of these are what the UAPs are. These are the classifications. This is what they look like. This is the data set. Everybody can see it. And we've moved on from accountability, you know, auditing these programs to figure out who's getting what money from allocated from what budget and who's overseeing what, if there is oversight at all. All of that is kind of moved into the background now. I just think that's interesting. Trying to stand back far enough from all of this to watch the big picture and see the tectonic plates sort of shifting underneath the UAP, UFO discussion. And this is what I'm seeing. So let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you're not already a subscriber, please do so. Subscribing to this channel is the simplest, most straightforward way you can help us continue to do what we are doing here at the Night Shift, which is make you, the audience, a part of the conversation. And if you really want to support us and you want to go an extra step, you can become a member through our YouTube channel. You can click join. You can become a member. We have exclusive benefits for our members. We do members-only chats, members-only live streams, members-only videos. And you can also go to teamnightshift.com and you can check out our merch page. You can pick up a t-shirt, a hat, a coffee mug. I've got mine right here. Every little bit helps. Join Team Night Shift. Be a part of the most exciting conversation happening anywhere on planet Earth. Thanks for watching. I'm going to see you soon on the next one. Until then, keep looking up.